This is an interesting one because if you were ranking off seasons the last few years, I think they're top 5. But this year, you're losing the coordinators. It is the first time, I think I mentioned this on Matt Coller's show, recording with him yesterday. We have been complimenting the Lions for years now. Their process, their draft selections, the way they've complemented their draft foundation with free agents, it's been outstanding. I would say this is the first year after 3 to 4 years of legitimate building blocks after building block after building block, making this team better. This is the first year where you can't say they clearly got better at their positions of need. And that includes coach. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't be just as good. It doesn't mean that they won't even be better. But they come in with more question marks rather than, man, they came like, again, last year at this time, could use a defensive tackle. They could use defensive line help. They could use a guard. They could use this. They could use a corner. And they filled all of them, both with free agents and draft picks. And they kept their coordinators. This year, they lose their coordinators. Still maybe don't have edge 2 opposite Aiden Hutchinson. And now with Frank Ragnow's retirement, have question marks at 2 starting spots on the offensive line. So it's the first year in a while where you can't clearly see on paper the Lions getting better based off of their offseason moves.
Yeah, I mean, the coordinators thing, and this is like, it's not like that's a mistake from them, right? Like, there's just nothing you can do about that. In fact, it's inevitable consequence of actually being successful is the good people you have in the building are going to get poached by other teams, and there's not much you can do about that. They'd staved it off for a few years by Ben Johnson coming back for a couple of years, but this year he was gone. Unfortunately for them, Aaron Glenn goes in the same year, and now you're losing both coordinators. So you have to factor that into your offseason grades. Again, not necessarily anything they could do about it, but this is where other teams get credit for bringing in coaches. The Lions kind of have to lose some for losing them both. The personnel thing, though, is a lot more, I think, hit or miss. On the one hand, yeah, they didn't address what we thought was their single biggest need, the lack of another edge rusher opposite Aiden Hutchinson, who, by the way, himself is more of a question mark now that he's coming off a serious injury. It's not, we're hoping Aiden Hutchinson comes back as exactly the same player he left as, but that's not a sure thing anymore. So, it's more important now that you get an extra threat on the edge than it was previously. But you did have a potential glaring weakness, a corner as well. And a guy like DJ Reed was a really astute signing to come in and solve that problem. So they have made some good moves. It's just that they've lost people. They haven't made the move everyone wanted them to make. And as you said, all of a sudden, Frank Ragnow's retirement sort of throws up an extra move that most people, even if the Lions kind of were prepared for it internally, most people were not prepared for that to be a weakness on this team.
Hey guys, just taking a quick break to tell you, hey, just over 50% of you are still unsubscribed to Check the Mic. It helps the channel. It helps to make sure that you don't miss any of our shows. So if you have a chance, hit the subscribe button right now. I also think this is just where the Lions are in their life cycle, including, like you said, losing coordinators. That's what happens with good teams. You keep having success, you're going to lose coaches. You're going to lose, front office personnel. We've seen the Ravens getting people stolen left and right from their front office, and you keep moving. That's where the Lions are in this life cycle, both personnel and from a front office and coaching perspective, but especially from a personnel perspective. They've drafted so well these last couple of years. There's a lot of money going to homegrown talent in the coming years. It's going to be a lot harder to, flip a third for Carlton Davis to bring him in and pay him $15 million to play starting corner. It's going to be a lot harder to bring in DJ Reader to play defensive tackle. It's just going to be harder to bring in free agents and have feel-good off seasons going forward, other than, hey, they re-signed, Penei Sewell to a big deal. They re-signed Amon-Ra St. Brown. So that next wave of when they re-sign Brian Branch and they re-sign Sam Laporta and they re-sign all their good players, that's going to be the future here for the Lions.
This is what's so compelling, though, about the NFL and the salary cap and all the rules and things associated with it. The draft is like every single situation throws up its own challenges. Like you say the old adage, well, you just build through the draft, right? Just keep drafting well, it's all good. Well, okay, so the Lions knock a draft out of the park, and it's a potentially franchise-altering draft. The first 4 picks we've talked about as being one of the best players at their respective position already. And that's great. That's fantastic, right? You found these 4 young players. They're a part of the core and they transform everything. But all of a sudden, you then have to start paying. Like you're only a couple of years away then at that point from having to pay 4 guys at the same time in order to keep them in the building, or make the difficult decision that we love this guy. We selected him. He's one of our own, but there's only so much money to go around and we got to let 1 or 2 of these guys leave in the offseason, right? You never reach a point where you can do anything like with no possible downside attached to it. There's always another shoe to drop. And the Lions have done they've done as good as anybody in the NFL in the last few years, since this regime came in, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, of getting as many things correct as possible, right? Within the realm of reality. And yet they're still faced with all these absurd challenges that, are difficult to overcome.
Next couple of years, if they're going to re-sign all of them, Aiden Hutchinson, Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Brian Branch, and Sam Laporta. Just those 6. If you want to re-sign all of your players. And then I saw the chat mention, hey, Taylor Decker's not getting any younger at left tackle.
Right.
And then you probably can't pay a big-time edge opposite Aiden Hutchinson. So really quick, my quick sidebar here. When you talk about positional value, where do you get your starting tackles? Most of your starting tackles and your best edges are found in the first round. That's why, whether you need them or not, drafting first-round tackles and edges does actually make a lot of sense, because whether you need them or not, 3 years down the road, you might, and you probably need them on the cheap. And so at some point, if you re-sign all those guys, we might be sitting here 2 years from now saying, hey, the Lions really need a left tackle. How are they going to solve this left tackle situation? They still need that edge opposite Aiden Hutchinson. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm saying these are the challenges that they're facing going forward. By the way, when they're going to pay these very good football players at where we said running back, safety, linebacker, very good football players at perceived lower positions of value.
But think what a percentage of your cap just that little group is, that little cohort of players is that you're going to have to pay in the next couple of years. And that's the reward for doing it the correct way, right? Building through the draft and, drafting well, like multiple positive things had to happen for you to be in this situation. And that's the reward for it is, oh man, this is a massive problem to have to deal with. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.